tuned into some of it yesterday, this wall-to-wall coverage of what is a very beautiful city, wonderful and a very harmonious city, and to see this sort of thing going on, you know, I'm perplexed by it as well. That I would have expected a bit more out of the president on this one, but I think this is where possibly there's political inexperience, and where he's trying to, I hate to use the word calculate, but politicians do that, obviously. I don't think he has any time for the far right. I don't think the man's a bigot or a racist. He does not, what's his face, David Duke does not represent Donald Trump or vice versa. You know,
at the same time, David Duke, head of the Ku Klux Klan, has said that they were there on behalf of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Now, Donald Trump may not be a racist. Donald Trump may not be a bigot. But if you can still hold those positions and pander to those audiences.
Well, like for instance, I did a debate a number of years ago, and this guy turned out to be an out-and-out Nazi. I mean, I walked out of the studio. It was one of those where you're in separate locations, and I thought, my gosh, you know, it really threw me. This was an out-and-out Nazi. Yet I went to his Facebook page, and there's like a, you know, Second Amendment, secure the Constitution. You know, based on that, I thought, my God, you know, tentatively, I agree with this guy. Yet I don't. So it's easy for Duke to try and co-opt these words, but I don't think it's fair to place him on the president. But I think what's going on is, yes, he's trying to figure, there's people in there probably that aren't racist, that aren't with this group. You know, there's a hardcore somewhere in the middle, and he's probably trying to figure, how do I get a message across without offending and trying to bring them in? You know, and hopefully do the right thing. You know, he was talking about, remember, he was talking about harmony and love and bringing people together, which is what America's about. But I think that's maybe where he's struggling right now. And yes, he does have to get a bit more explicit on this, because these are very dangerous people, and we shouldn't stand for it.
One thinks again, I mean, the United States, the right in the United States has had an uneasy relationship with the far right for many, many years. There is a degree of cross-pollination that goes on there. At the same time, you know, have we seen sites, the likes of which we've seen on the streets of Charlottesville and elsewhere across the South, where the far right feels so emboldened by the current occupant of the White House that they're willing to stand in the streets, to have the private militias armed to the teeth, protecting them, to engage in violence with anti-fascist protesters and the police. It does feel like we've passed a tipping point here.
Well, but you could say that about, even you look back during the Obama years, and we had sort of the, not necessarily the opposite, but some of them were far right as well, the Black Lives Matter. Matter of fact, I'm just wondering when he said on every side, and I don't know, I mean, I'm trying to read the man's mind, which is not fair. I'm wondering if that's who he was referring to when he mentioned, you know, on all sides, or that he's thinking over the course of a year. I know the White House doesn't say that. I think there were actually several alt-right groups involved. But, you know, it can conceivably be, he's thinking, yeah, you know, a couple of years ago we had policemen being shot in the streets.
Isn't the problem for President Trump that until he comes out and explicitly points the finger, uses the phrase white supremacist, people will conclude that he has adopted this ambivalent position because some of those people that are marching in Virginia are his supporters?
Well, you know, again, you can't be responsible for who supports you, because anybody can jump on your bandwagon, whether they think they believe what you believe or not. But yes, I think he does need to be more explicit, and he has to be a bit more clear in his communication. Generally, he's pretty good at it. But again, this is a domestic issue, and I think he's struggling, because the answer he wants to get out is this message of harmony, but it's not necessarily working, and people are reading into it rightly or wrongly.
Charlie, always good to see you. Thanks very much for coming in.